The garden encounter. The candlelight flickered across the exotic flora of the Wellington Botanical Gardens, transforming the conservatory into an ethereal wonderland. Olivia Reed adjusted her server's uniform, a plain black dress that felt increasingly uncomfortable as the evening wore on. She balanced her tray of champagne flutes, navigating between clusters of New York's elite who had gathered for the annual fundraiser. Remember, don't speak unless spoken to, her supervisor had warned earlier, as if she needed the reminder. At 23, Olivia had worked enough catering jobs to know her place, invisible until needed, then forgotten immediately after. "Another, please," a woman dripping in diamonds said without looking at her. Olivia offered a fresh glass with a practiced smile that went unnoticed. 3 more hours of this, and she could return to her tiny apartment to study for tomorrow's plant genetics exam. Her scholarship covered tuition, but these side jobs paid for everything else: food, rent, and the specialized botany supplies her research required. When her scheduled break finally came, Olivia slipped away from the main hall. Instead of joining the other servers in the staff area, she found herself drawn to the tropical section of the conservatory, a place usually closed to the public during events. The humid air embraced her like a warm blanket as she entered. Here, away from the artificial laughter and pretentious conversations, she could breathe. Olivia reached out to touch a broad leaf of a Monstera deliciosa, her fingers gentle against its surface. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a deep voice said from behind her. Olivia spun around, nearly losing her balance. A man stood several feet away, his tall frame silhouetted against the moonlight streaming through the glass ceiling. He wore an elegantly tailored suit, but unlike the other guests, he seemed at ease among the plants. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "This area is off limits. I shouldn't be here." "Neither should I," he replied with a slight smile. "I needed a moment. Away from—" he gestured vaguely toward the main hall. "From people who talk about saving the environment while flying private jets?" Olivia said before she could stop herself. Instead of taking offense, the man laughed, a genuine sound that seemed to resonate with the space around them. "Exactly. I'm Damien, by the way." "Olivia." She hesitated, then added, "I should get back before someone notices I'm gone." "Wait," Damien said, stepping closer. In the dappled moonlight, she could see his features more clearly. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that seemed to hold secrets, and a small scar near his right temple. "You know about these plants?" Olivia nodded. "I'm studying botanical sciences at Hudson University, specializing in endangered species conservation." "Tell me about this one," he said, pointing to a flowering vine nearby. For the next 20 minutes, Olivia forgot she was a server talking to someone far above her social station. She explained the rare orchid's pollination process, its threatened habitat, and her research on propagating endangered species. Damien listened intently, asking questions that revealed genuine interest rather than polite conversation. When their hands accidentally brushed as they examined a leaf together, Olivia felt an unexpected jolt of connection. "You should be presenting in there, not serving drinks," he said softly. Before she could respond, her phone alarm buzzed. "My break's over," she whispered, suddenly remembering who she was and who he must be. "When can I see you again?" Damien asked as she turned to leave. Olivia smiled sadly. "People like you don't really see people like me, Damien. Tonight was just a moment out of time." As she hurried back to the main hall, she didn't notice how long he stood watching her go, or how he quietly asked a staff member about the catering company's name. Whispers and shadows. 3 weeks had passed since the garden fundraiser, yet Olivia couldn't shake the memory of her moonlit conversation with Damien. She found herself daydreaming about his intelligent questions and the way his eyes had lit up when she described her research. "Earth to Olivia," her roommate Jessica said, waving a hand in front of her face. "You've been staring at that same textbook page for 15 minutes. "Sorry," Olivia mumbled, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "Just tired from the double shift yesterday." Jessica plopped down beside her on their worn couch. "You're working too hard. Between classes, lab hours, and those catering gigs. When do you actually sleep?" Sleep is for the wealthy, Olivia joked, though the dark circles under her eyes told a different story. Speaking of wealthy, Jessica said, sliding her laptop over. Have you seen this? The Thorne Foundation just announced a new fellowship for botanical conservation. It's like it was made for you. Olivia scanned the article, her heart racing. The fellowship would fund a full year of independent research plus a stipend for living. Expenses, exactly what she needed to complete her thesis project on propagating endangered rainforest species. The deadline's next week, Jessica pointed out. You should apply. The competition will be fierce, Olivia sighed, though she was already mentally composing her application. Across town, in a sleek penthouse overlooking Central Park, Damien Thorne stared out at the city lights, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. His assistant Benjamin cleared his throat from the doorway. The foundation paperwork is complete, sir. The fellowship announcement went live this morning. Damien nodded without turning. And the other matter? We located her, Benjamin said, placing a folder on the desk. Olivia Reed, 23, botany doctoral candidate at Hudson University. Works part-time for elite catering services and weekends at the university greenhouse. Impressive academic record despite her financial constraints. Damien finally turned, picking up the folder. Financial constraints? Orphaned at 16. Put herself through undergrad with scholarships and part-time jobs. Currently carrying some student debt despite her scholarship. Damien's jaw tightened. He knew what it meant to struggle, to fight for every opportunity. Before his software company exploded into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. The world saw him as Damien Thorne, the tech mogul who rarely made public appearances and never gave interviews. The man the business press called the digital phantom for his reclusiveness. Only his closest associates knew why he'd withdrawn from the public eye 5 years ago, after the scandal that left him with both physical and emotional scars. Sir, Benjamin ventured, may I ask why you're so interested in this student? Damien set down the folder. She spoke to me like I was a person, not a bank account or a tabloid story. Do you know how rare that is? Benjamin nodded, knowing better than to press further. Will you be attending the department reception next week at Hudson? As the fellowship donor, your presence was requested. For years, Damien had declined such invitations, sending representatives instead. But now he found himself saying, yes. Schedule it. The following Tuesday, Olivia rushed into the Natural Sciences building, clutching her fellowship application. She'd spent every spare moment perfecting it, even taking an unpaid day off from the greenhouse to finish. As she rounded the corner toward the department office, she collided with someone exiting the dean's office. I'm so sorry, she gasped, dropping her papers. As she knelt to gather them, a familiar voice replied, We seem destined to meet in unexpected places. Olivia froze, slowly looking up into the face she'd been unable to forget. Recognition dawned immediately, followed by confusion when she noticed people deferentially stepping aside as they passed. Damien? She whispered. Hello, Olivia, he said softly. Before she could respond, Dean Fletcher emerged from his office. Mr. Thorne, I see you've met one of our most promising doctoral candidates. Olivia's eyes widened as the pieces clicked into place. Not just any Damien. Damien Thorne, the billionaire tech innovator whose company, Thorne Innovations, was changing the face of renewable energy technology. Actually, Damien said, his eyes never leaving Olivia's shocked face. We've met before. How fortunate, the dean beamed, oblivious to the tension between them. Perhaps Ms. Reed can show you our research greenhouse. Her work there aligns perfectly with your foundation's mission. Olivia clutched her application tighter, feeling betrayed and confused. Had their meeting been planned? Was this all some game to him? I'd like that very much, Damien said quietly, his expression unreadable. Trapped by politeness and the dean's expectant gaze, Olivia nodded stiffly. Of course, she managed to say, even as her mind raced with unanswered questions and a strange, unwelcome flutter of excitement beneath her anger. Thorns and roses, The university greenhouse was Olivia's sanctuary, a place where the complex language of plants made more sense than human interactions. Today, however, the humid air felt suffocating as she led Damien Thorne between rows of carefully tended specimens. "This is our propagation area," she explained stiffly, gesturing toward seedlings under specialized lights. "We're focusing on species threatened by climate change and deforestation." Damien nodded, maintaining a respectful distance. "Your passion shows in how you speak about them." "Was this your plan all along?" Olivia finally asked, unable to contain the question burning inside her. Meet the scholarship girl at a fancy fundraiser, pretend to be interested in her research, then what? Create a fellowship to make her feel indebted to you? Hurt flashed across his face. "Is that what you think of me?" "I don't know what to think," she replied. "Men like you don't talk to women like me without an agenda." Damien's expression hardened. "Men like me? You've decided who I am based on my net worth?" "No, Olivia faltered, realizing the hypocrisy in her words. "For the record," he said quietly, "the fellowship was already planned months ago. I attended that fundraiser reluctantly, at my board's insistence. Meeting you was—" He paused, searching for words, unexpected, illuminating. A graduate student entered the far end of the greenhouse, waving at Olivia, before noticing her companion and quickly retreating. "Word travels fast," she muttered. "That's something we have in common," Damien said, absently touching the scar near his temple. "Being watched, judged." Curiosity overcame her anger. "What happened? To your face, I mean." Something darkened in his eyes. "5 years ago, I trusted the wrong person. Josephine Wells, a brilliant environmental scientist I was both dating and funding. She used our relationship to access proprietary renewable energy technology, then sold it to competitors." He turned away, examining a flowering orchid. "When I confronted her, things got physical." She threw a glass paperweight. "The scandal was everywhere, the betrayal, the assault. The press painted me as either a victim or a fool. After that, I stepped away from public life." Olivia absorbed his words, seeing vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior. "I'm sorry that happened to you." "I didn't tell you for sympathy," he said. "Just to explain why I value authenticity. That night in the garden, you weren't performing or calculating. You were just real." A silence fell between them, fragile as the orchid petals nearby. "The fellowship," Olivia finally said. "I won't apply. It would feel wrong now." "That would be a mistake," Damien replied firmly. "Your work deserves support, regardless of whatever this is between us." He gestured vaguely between them. "And what exactly is this?" she challenged. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I'd like to find out, separate from any professional considerations." Professor Nichols, the department chair, appeared at the greenhouse entrance. "Ms. Reed, there you are. The committee is waiting for your presentation on the fungal symbiosis project." Olivia blanched. She'd completely forgotten about her scheduled research presentation. "I'll be right there," she called, gathering her composure. "May I attend?" Damien asked quietly. She hesitated, then nodded. "It's open to department visitors." As they walked toward the exit, Damien stopped by a particularly vibrant rosebush. "These are beautiful." "They're actually quite difficult," Olivia explained, momentarily forgetting her confusion as her expertise took over. "This variety is temperamental, needs precise conditions to thrive. Most people give up on them too quickly. Perhaps some things worth having require patience and persistence," Damien observed, his eyes meeting hers. During her presentation, Olivia found herself periodically glancing toward the back row where Damien sat. Unlike the distracted professors checking emails or students doodling in notebooks, he listened with complete attention, occasionally taking notes. Afterward, as faculty and students gathered around her with questions, she noticed Damien quietly slipping out the door. But before he left, he placed something on the corner table, a small potted plant with a note. Hours later, when the room had emptied, Olivia discovered it was a rare miniature species of the rose they'd discussed. The note read simply, "Some things grow best when given space and time. My number, if you ever want to continue our conversation about difficult species worth cultivating." Olivia touched the tiny, perfect bloom, torn between her rational mind warning her to keep her distance, and the undeniable pull she felt toward this complex man, who seemed to understand both her ambition and her hesitation. That night, she added his number to her phone, but didn't call. Some decisions, like certain seeds, needed time to germinate. Blossoming trust. 2 weeks passed before Olivia finally gathered the courage to text Damien. A simple message. "The rose is thriving. Thank you." She sent it at 2 a.m. after a grueling lab session, not expecting an immediate response. Her phone chimed 30 seconds later. "I'm glad. How's the fellowship application?" Olivia smiled despite herself. Of course he was awake at this hour too. "Submitted yesterday. Fair evaluation only, please." "I'm not on the committee." Deliberately. Their text exchanges became a nightly ritual. Conversations, spanning from botanical research to favorite books, childhood memories to future dreams. Damien never pushed for more, respecting the careful boundaries Olivia had established. One evening, Olivia's phone rang instead of the usual text notification. Damien's name flashed on the screen. "Is everything okay?" she answered, concern edging her voice. Perfect timing. His voice came through, sounding more relaxed than she'd ever heard him. "Look up." Olivia moved to her apartment window, pulling back the threadbare curtain. On the street below stood Damien, phone to his ear, looking, decidedly, unlike a billionaire in jeans and a simple sweater. "What are you doing here?" she asked, half laughing, half panicking as she glanced around her tiny studio apartment. "I was meeting with researchers at the university lab. Thought I'd take a chance." There was a pause. "No pressure, but there's a little Ethiopian restaurant around the corner. Best coffee in Manhattan." 20 minutes later, they sat across from each other in a small, warmly lit restaurant where nobody seemed to recognize Damien. For the first time, they spoke face to face without the weight of their different worlds pressing down on them. "So you grew up in foster care?" Damien asked gently after Olivia mentioned her childhood. She nodded, breaking off a piece of injera bread. "My mom died when I was 16. Dad was never in the picture. The system was challenging, but I had one amazing foster mother, Mrs. Patterson, who saw my interest in plants and encouraged it." "She sounds like someone I'd like to thank," Damien said. "She passed away my sophomore year of college," Olivia replied softly. "But she's the reason I never gave up, even when it seemed impossible." Damien's hand moved across the table, hesitating, just short of touching hers. "What seemed impossible?" "This," she gestured vaguely. "College, graduate school. Everyone said someone from my background couldn't make it in academia without connections or family money. Yet here you are," Damien said with unmistakable admiration. "Here I am," she agreed, finally allowing her fingers to meet his. "Though my academic future is still uncertain." Damien raised an eyebrow questioningly. "The greenhouse funding is being cut," Olivia explained. "Without it, I lose both my research space and my weekend job. The fellowship would help, but that's still undecided, and even then, I could help," Damien offered immediately. Olivia withdrew her hand. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." "What?" "That you'd try to solve my problems with money. That's not what I want from you, Damien." He sat back, studying her face. "What do you want from me?" The question hung between them, honest and uncomplicated. "Understanding," Olivia finally said. "Seeing me as a whole person, not someone to rescue." 3 days later, Professor Nichols called Olivia into his office. "Remarkable news," he announced. "An anonymous donor has created an endowment specifically for greenhouse operations and student employment. Your position is secure with increased hours if you want them." Olivia's first instinct was anger. She immediately texted Damien. "We need to talk." They met at a quiet corner of Central Park, autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet. "You went behind my back?" she said without preamble. I did nothing of the sort, Damien replied calmly. The endowment is anonymous and benefits the entire department, not just you. But you did it because of what I told you. I did it because it's a worthy program that aligns with my foundation's mission, he countered. Would you prefer I withheld support from something valuable just to avoid helping you in the process? Olivia faltered, realizing the complicated nature of her pride. I don't want to be your charity case. Olivia, Damien said softly, you're the least needy person I've ever met. That's part of what makes you so remarkable. They walked in silence for several minutes before Olivia spoke again. I got the fellowship. Damien's face brightened. That's wonderful. When did you find out? This morning. The committee chair made a point of telling me you weren't involved in the decision. I told you I wouldn't be. Olivia nodded, feeling something shift between them. I've spent so long fighting to prove myself that I've forgotten how to accept good things when they happen. I understand that more than you know, Damien said. After Josephine, I stopped trusting anyone's motives. It's exhausting, constantly questioning whether people want you or what you can give them. As they reached the Bethesda fountain, Damien took Olivia's hand, his touch gentle but certain. I'm not asking you to trust me completely yet. Just enough to let me take you to dinner tomorrow night. A proper celebration of your fellowship. Olivia looked at their intertwined fingers, then up at his face, no longer seeing the billionaire or the recluse, but simply a man waiting for her answer. I'd like that, she said, feeling the walls she'd built around her heart begin to crumble, not in collapse but in careful, deliberate openness. Roots entwined. The months following Olivia's fellowship award brought changes neither she nor Damien had anticipated. As winter thawed into spring, their relationship deepened. Dinners evolved into long weekends exploring botanical gardens across the country. Late-night conversations about research became discussions about shared dreams, and the careful distance Olivia had maintained gradually dissolved. Yet shadows lingered. Olivia noticed how Damien tensed when recognized in public, how he deflected personal questions from her colleagues, how he kept parts of himself carefully guarded, like a plant that opens its blossoms only under specific conditions. On a crisp April morning, Olivia stood in the university greenhouse preparing specimens for her fellowship presentation. Her phone buzzed with a text from Damien. Dinner tonight? I have something important to discuss. Her stomach tightened. In her experience, important discussions rarely brought good news. Hours later, as she packed her research materials, Professor Nichols approached with an unusual urgency. Olivia, have you seen this? He thrust a tablet toward her, displaying a business news site with the headline, Thorn Innovations Faces, Hostile Takeover Bid from Wells Consortium. Beneath the headline was a photo of Damien beside a striking woman with calculating eyes, Josephine Wells. Isn't that your... Professor Nichols trailed off awkwardly. Thank you for showing me, Olivia said tightly, gathering her belongings. She tried calling Damien, but the call went straight to voicemail. That evening, she arrived at his penthouse with dread pooling in her stomach. The security guard recognized her immediately, waving her up with a familiarity that would have pleased her any other day. Damien opened the door before she could knock, his expression unreadable. You've seen the news. It wasn't a question. Olivia stepped inside, noticing the chaos of papers scattered across his usually immaculate living room. Were you going to tell me she was back? Olivia asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. That's why I wanted to see you tonight, Damien replied, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Josephine's consortium has been quietly buying shares for months. They're making their move tomorrow at the shareholders' meeting. This isn't just business, is it? Olivia pressed. She's doing this to hurt you. Damien's silence confirmed her fears. What will you do? Fight, he said simply. I've built contingencies. But Olivia, there's something else you should know. He hesitated, tension visible in the set of his shoulders. If this goes poorly, the Foundation's endowments could be affected, including your fellowship. Olivia felt as though the floor had dropped from beneath her. So everything, us, the fellowship, the greenhouse funding, It all disappears if she wins. The foundation is separate, but she could tie it up in litigation for years. Damien moved closer, taking her hands. I'm sorry, I never meant to put your future at risk. Olivia pulled away, years of hard-learned caution resurfacing. Maybe that's the problem. You never meant for any of this to happen, but it did. You walked into my life, changed everything, and now you think I'm abandoning you. Damien finished, his voice pained. Just like everyone else in your life. The accuracy of his assessment stung. I need to go, she whispered, turning toward the door. Olivia, wait. Damien reached for her arm. Come with me tomorrow. She stared at him. To the shareholders' meeting, why? Because I'm tired of hiding, from the public, from my past. His voice softened. From how I feel about you. The next morning, Olivia stood in the back of a sleek conference room filled with Thorn Innovations shareholders. Damien sat at the head table, composed but with tension evident in his jaw. Beside him, his legal team whispered urgently as Josephine Wells approached the podium, elegant in her ruthlessness. For years, Thorn Innovations has languished under its founder's increasingly reclusive leadership, Josephine began, her voice smooth as poison. The company needs direction that embraces public engagement, not hides from it. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Olivia watched Damien's face, seeing the mask of control he wore like armor. Mr. Thorne's withdrawal from public life following art on personal differences speaks to a fundamental instability, Josephine continued. A leader cannot guide a company of this magnitude from the shadows. Damien rose slowly, and the room fell silent. For a moment he looked toward Olivia, something shifting in his expression before he turned to address the room. 5 years ago, I made a mistake, he began, his voice steady. Not in confronting Ms. Wells about her industrial espionage. That's well documented in the legal proceedings this company won. My mistake was allowing her betrayal to convince me that vulnerability was weakness. He moved from behind the table, standing directly before the shareholders. I withdrew not from instability but from disillusionment. I focused on building this company's technology and ethics rather than its public image. But Ms. Wells is right about one thing. Leadership requires visibility. Damien gestured toward Olivia. In recent months, someone remarkable has helped me understand that true strength lies in openness, not isolation. In growth, not stagnation. He turned to Josephine, with newfound confidence. You're offering these shareholders a takeover based on my past. I'm offering them a future, one where Thorn Innovations leads in both technology and transparency. For the next hour, Damien presented a vision so compelling that even Josephine's most loyal supporters began to waver. By the time the votes were tallied, her consortium's bid had been soundly rejected. As the room emptied, Damien found Olivia waiting by the window, gazing out at the city below. You did it, she said softly. We did it, he corrected her. I couldn't have found the courage without you. What happens now? Olivia asked, the question encompassing far more than just the company's future. Damien took her hand, leading her to a quiet corner of the now empty conference room. That depends on you. The fellowship is secure. The greenhouse funding is untouchable. Your future is yours to determine, regardless of what you decide about us. And what is us exactly? Olivia asked, the final wall around her heart still standing, waiting to be either reinforced or dismantled. Damien reached into his pocket, withdrawing not a ring as she momentarily feared, but a small glass vial containing what appeared to be seeds. These are from a species of rose thought extinct until rediscovered last year, he explained. They only germinate under very specific conditions, after enduring frost, requiring patience and precise care. He placed the vial in her palm, closing her fingers around it. Like these seeds, what we have is rare and requires both time and trust to flourish. I'm asking for the chance to grow something lasting, something that can withstand seasons of change. Olivia looked at the tiny seeds, understanding the metaphor with perfect clarity. You realize a botanist never turns down rare specimens, she said, a smile finally breaking through her apprehension. Is that a yes? It's a beginning, she replied, stepping closer. The best plants develop strong roots before they flower. Damien's arms encircled her waist. I can work with that. I've learned patience from an expert after all. As they left the building together, neither the waiting photographers nor the business reporters mattered. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, the scrutiny of a relationship between a billionaire and a botanist, the delicate balance of her independence and their connection, the gradual process of truly letting someone in. But tonight, like the rare seeds now safely tucked in Olivia's pocket, they had everything they needed to grow something extraordinary: fertile ground, careful tending, and the promise of seasons yet to unfold. In the greenhouse of possibility, their separate paths had become gloriously, irrevocably entwined.